Okay, so we are now recording this session. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome everyone. It's a pleasure for me to introduce Dr. Rafael Trueba from the great Mexican university called Tecnológico de Monterrey. He's a professor of economics at the School of Social Sciences and Government, and he works at the campus Morelia. And his topic for today will be environmental economics, the case of Lake Cuitzeo, which is a very interesting case, and it has many economic consequences and social consequences, of course, for the people living in the surrounding area. So I will leave the floor to Rafael. Welcome again, and please feel free to introduce yourself a bit and then start your presentation, and of course receive any questions that might come from the audience. So okay. Rafael, the floor is yours, and welcome.
Okay, thank you very much, Dubraco. First of all, simple question, can you see my presentation?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Well, let's start. Well, first of all, I want to thank the University of Zagreb and also my friend Dr. Dubravko for the invitation to this talk. I remember a year ago I had the opportunity to know him and to my friend Dr. Dubravko, and I think he's an excellent professor and researcher. But the most important thing, he's an excellent person. So I hope that he will return to Mexico soon, and in particular in Morelia. So let's start with the talk. The title of this video conferences is Environmental Economics, the case of Lake Cuitzeo. I am Rafael Trueba, professor at Tec de Monterrey. I have my Ph.D. in regional development. So it's a pleasure and an honor to stay here with you. So let's start. And the content of this presentation of this talk is as follows. First, we will discuss the theoretical or maybe first we will discuss the introduction and then the theoretical and methodological elements of this research. And after this, we will present the case and finally the conclusion. So this is the content of the presentation. The first part is the introduction. Well, in this slide, we can see the figure 1. The figure 1 shows the geographic location of the state of Michoacán in Mexico. This is Mexico, this is my country, and this is the state of Michoacán. I live here. And this is our region of study. This is the Lake Cuitzeo. So this is just to announce where we were working, okay? In this figure, we have the geographical location of Lake Cuitzeo in Michoacán, Mexico. So in this figure, we can see the study region, which is this part, and we can see the localities. This is Cuitzeo, this is Guandacareo, this is Chucándiro, and this is Copándaro. I mean, there are 4 localities, which is our region. The lake and the study region are located in the northern part of the state. Sorry, I can hear that.
It's okay. It's probably somebody came here and forgot to switch off the mic, but it's okay now.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
And the study region is made up of the municipalities that we mentioned. So this is our study region. And in this slide, we can see the spatial distribution of urban and rural localities in the western region of Lake Cuitzeo. And in this sense, this figure shows the study region and is identified as a rural region. Okay. It is necessary to mention some elements of context to identify the relevance of Lake Cuitzeo. In that sense, Lake Cuitzeo is the second largest natural lake in Mexico. Also, it has an extension of 450 kilometers, and the basin covers an extension of 3,060 150 kilometers, and it is the fourth oldest lake in the world. I mean, this lake is not only important for Mexico, this lake is important for all the world. In Michoacán, we have the Cuitzeo Lake, and shows a process of ecological deterioration. It is explained by the economic development, the main uses of water in the basin, specifically the uses of water in agriculture and urban public. Also, because the water pollution, which I have to say that unfortunately Morelia has or apport the 80% of residual water to comes to entry to the lake. So this is a serious problem. Also, because the deterioration and the variability of precipitation and temperature that occurring during the next year. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes. Yes,
okay.
it is normal.
Well, in figure 4, sorry, we can see the roads that divide the lake in 3 sections. These constructions explain the ecological deterioration of the lake. This is so embarrassing because this kind of infrastructure can do with this material. So this is so embarrassing for this situation. In figure 5, we can see the dissection process in Cuitzeo Lake. And this is the process that the lake had in 2017. We can see just it starts like a desert, but in figure number 6, we can see the Cuitzeo Lake's western region, and this is we have to understand the desiccation process is cyclical. So in this figure, we can see the lake in 2018, which is the largest surface water record has had in recent years. The depth of the lake in 2018 was 30 centimeters, when in the 19th it was up 1.5 meters. So I insist this is a serious problem. In figure 7, we can see the worst drought that the lake has had in recent decades. It looked like an apocalyptic image because the lake turned into a desert. So I took this picture maybe a month ago. So this is the real situation up to now. The desiccation process of Cuitzeo Lake is the next one. In the first months of the year, the western part enters in a desiccation process with high evaporation. By this process, water contaminants settle on the ground. The speed and the orientation of the wind cause the appearance of the dust storms that cover the riverside pollution in Capacho, Dr. Miguel Silva, Jeruco, located in the western region of Lake Cuitzeo, with a consequence increase in respiratory, gastrointestinal, and ophthalmological disease. So, in other words, this is healthy problems. There have been more than 100 cases attributable to dust storms. So this is a very dangerous situation. In figure 8, we can see or we can compare the evolution of the drying process. In the following future, the lake still had water. And this figure shows the lake in 2000. So the big blue, the light blue color, which is here, indicates that it has a little water, and the dark blue color, which is here, indicates more water. Just to compare with the next one slide, which shows we can see basically the lake disappear. In other words, in 17 years, the lake dried up. It is so sad for this lake because this is so frustrating. Well, in figure 10, we can see the dust storms in the Lake Cuitzeo. And these are one of the most dangerous problems because they are causing health problems in the population. In 2017, the biggest problem occurred because people could not leave their homes to their productive activities. So it is a very dangerous situation with some impacts with some social impacts and economic impacts. So therefore, the aim of the talk of these video conferences is to present the socioeconomic value of negative health externalities suffered by the population of Lake Cuitzeo's western region caused by the lake environment deterioration occurring in the upper part of the basin. Okay, and now we will comment the theoretical elements. And okay, we will comment the theoretical elements. The theoretical planning is from environmental economics. And as we can see, environmental economics deals with the study of environmental problems with the perspective and analytical ideas of economics. Environmental economics is situated in the field of microeconomics, and it is focused primarily on how and why people make decisions that have environmental consequences. Environmental economics usually studies two issues: the problem of externalities and optimal allocation of the resources. And in this presentation, we have to analyzing the problem of externalities. Now we will comment the research methodology. And the methodological approach of this research is based on Contingent Valuation Method. It is a hypothetical method to simulate conditions or scenarios that allow formulation of a market for environmental goods. The application of the method is structured as follows, and we can resume in 8 steps. So, this slide presents the process of the applying of the Contingent Valuation Method. First one, we have to identify what is intent to be valued. In this case, we have to intent value the negative externalities in health based on the population willingness to accept a compensation. And then we have to choose a survey type. In this case, we choose a personal survey. And the third step is the payment method. We chose a voucher for a medical expenses. The fourth step is the format selection and design. we chose the economic and closest format to do the questions of the questionnaire. And the 5 step is when you have to pre-test and design of the final questionnaire. We had pilot and final questionnaire, and in step 6, we have to determine the sample. A representative sample was determined by our team. And step 7, it refers to data analysis. We use econometric techniques like logic and Tobit models are used to generate explanations through the socioeconomic variables. And finally, the results are presented with data extrapolation. To emphasize more with the design of the instrument, in this slide, we can explain how was the collect of the information in the field. So the first step was, as I said, a representative sample with a 95% confidence value was calculated. The result was 272 questionnaires to simulate a hypothetical market that determines the correlations between the study variables and calculate the intent economic value. Second, the unit of analysis was housing, and the information was collected in the towns most affected by the dust storms. These areas were Jeruco, Dr. Miguel Silva, and Capacho. And then 250 men and 57 women were interviewed. The instrument was divided into 6 sections. I mean, knowledge of the problem, defensive cause, in health, willingness to accept a compensation for the externality, willingness to pay for actions that environmentally improve the lake, ecological commitment for the environmental improvement of the lake, and the socioeconomic conditions of the interview. And in this presentation, we just only refers to the willingness to accept a compensation for the externality. Okay, so the instrument contains 41 questions, 22 are closed, and 19 are open. And also an explanatory broach on the main elements of the questionnaire was rated so that the interviewee has a greater connection with the question to be asked. So in this figure, we can see the localities where the information was collected in the field. I mean, this is Jeruco, this is Dr. Miguel Silva, and this is Capacho. This is the Cuitzeo Lake. And as we can see, this is the road that divides the lake in 3 sections. So this is only the simple size for the application of questionnaire. Once we explain the theoretical and the methodological arguments, it is time to present the case of the study. The first part is the profile of the interviewee. In this figure, we can see the age of the interviewee. As we can see, most of the interviewees are between the age of 40 and 70. It's like here, from here. It means between the ages of 40 and 70. In figure 30, we can see the gender, and most of the people interviewed were men. And to do or to have more explanations, with this gender and we have 79% of those interviewed were men and 21% were women. In figure 14, we have the number of inhabitants per home, and as we can see, there are 4 persons by home. This is the frequency, this is the percentage, this is the value percentage, and this is the accumulated percentage. So this shows that most of the answers were in number 4. So the number of inhabitants per home are 4. The education level, and the most of the people interviewed have a basic education level. This is primary school and high school. And the least level education, it is a master's or a doctorate or Ph.D. So the most of the people interviewed have a basic level education. Figure 16 shows the occupation, and most of the people interviewed work as farmers, also as traders and the constructor industry, as we can see in this figure. Well, most of the people interviewed earned 88 euros. It means like 2,000 pesos, as we can see here. And other people earn 1,000 or 1,015 euros per month, as we can see in those outliers. In figure 18, we can see household income increases when 2 people work. The amount rises up to 176 euros. Other families earn a little more, but the most common income is here. Well, the second part is the economic cost incurred by population due to the problem of the dust storms. This figure shows the total cost of the externality in euros for month period and per household. I mean, when I said for month period, for 4-month period, is all the time that the dust storms dured. So people spend their money in medicine and medical appointments and mouth covers or masks. And this is understood as a defensive cost due to the problems of the dust storms. This represents like 69 euros. On the other hand, people stop working for up 20 days or 27 days due to the problem of the dust storms. This causes an opportunity cost, which is represent 250 euros. The cost of the externality is integrated by above cost. It means defensive and job, which represents 319 euros. The externality cost in the study area is 270,000 euros. So this represents in Mexico like 7 million of pesos. Okay. The next part is the study of the willingness to accept compensation for the dust storms. So now we analyze this part. In this figure, we can see the percentage of the people who will accept a compensation. As we can see, the 90% make or have the willingness to accept the compensation, but the 10% don't have the accept financial compensation. In the next one, the slide shows the people who were willing to receive the proposed monetary amounts that we propose. 83% will accept and 17% will not accept. The reasons that they have for not accepting compensation was the study will not solve the problem, as we can see here. And also because they thought that it was not correct to the use voucher for medical expenses. And finally, because they did not have confidence in the monetary support. This slide describes the statistics which indicate that people will be willing to accept 37 euros. So we have the quantification of that. This figure shows the distribution of the people's monetary preference in the study area. In other words, this slide indicates the distribution of the responses of the interviewees in reference to the monetary amounts that we propose as a compensation. And there are most accept amounts were 22 and 44 euros, which is this part and this part. And there were some people who want more money than like 66 euros or 88 euros, but most of the people want 22 and 44 euros. Well, this slide shows the logic model that we use to obtain or to identify the characteristics of a person who will be willing to compensate. And the coefficients that we here indicate that a person who visits the doctor, a person who wears masks, a person who is or who is an adult age, and a person who has a constant income could be more willing to be compensated than someone who doesn't these characteristics. So this is the logic model. In figure 28, we can see the Tobit model. And the Tobit model, it was used to identify the main monetary amounts that the interviewees will be willing to accept, all right? So the coefficients that we have here indicate that a person who visits the doctor will be willing to accept 7 euros more than someone who doesn't go to the doctor. And also, a person who works will be willing to accept 34 euros less than a person who doesn't not work. So we use those models to find the most important variables to have a correlation. Finally, we have the conclusions. The conclusions are without a market to economically value environmental goals, environmental economics use environmental economics use scientifically valid instruments to carry out this type of research. Also, the total defensive cost per home during the period of the dust storms is 69 euros. The job opportunity cost is 215 euros. And the study area, the externality cost to 260 euros. 90% of the interviewees will be willing to accept a monthly compensation of 37 euros, which represents 140 euros per month period per household. through a voucher for medical expenses. And this voucher must be provided by the current government administration in function through the Ministry of Public Health. We can set that the monetary valuation assigned to the defensive cost, opportunity cost, and the willingness to pay or willing to accept for this case study is only instrumental. Therefore, should be understood that people proposal consists of management tools whose value reflects the cost of human inaction to solve an environmental problem as happened in Lake Cuitzeo. So these elements could guide the decision making in building public policies to reduce the problem of the study. So I want to thank again to the University of Zagreb and my friend Dr. Dubrakov for this invitation and all the people who attend the event. I hope I didn't bore you so much. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Rafael. Thank you, Rafael. Now, first I will leave the floor to the audience. If anybody has a question, please step in.
Sure.
I wanted to ask, okay, obviously the people are ready to accept the payment, but was there any, how should I say, move to further their, to improve their lifestyle because of sandstorms and droughts and water pollution and so on?
Okay.
Would they prefer something like that over the payment, or?
Okay. Thanks for your question. And can I answer?
Yes, of course.
Yep. Okay. Well, this is a very good question. Improve their lifestyles or what they prefer. Well, as we can show at the presentation, I think the most important thing is to make a solutions. So it is required to improve the lifestyles, required to implant vegetation in strategic areas of the lake. And this vegetation must be resist the characteristic of soil. And if you can do that, maybe you can give an answer for the problem and not only the expensive value, but I think we have another solutions to try to have another solution for this problem. So I think they prefer not only the value expenses, and they prefer another solutions like implant vegetation. Yeah.
Yes.
I have another one, if it's okay.
Yes, of course.
Okay. I know we live in a small country compared to Mexico, and we had similar situations on a smaller scale. But I don't know how come it even comes to that, since government should regulate the industry and pollution. Okay, they made the companies pay externalities, but why? How should come to such extent that money can't pay for the damages?
Okay. I just write in something like that. Okay. Well, I think, yes, as you said, Mexico and Croatia maybe have similar problems, but we have a different populations. In Michoacán, we have 40 million of inhabitants. So, I don't know how much or what is the population of Croatia, but we have many people here. So the government has to regulate the pollution because they need to propose a regulation of this pollution. And we have trying to make the lake as a restoration zone to do another things. And in that case, we have a restoration strategy. It also requires in research areas. So if we can do that, the government have to do a management plan for water resources, which also is needed for a good management and administration. If we have a plan for do that, maybe we can reduce the pollution, and maybe most of the companies can pay the externalities.
Yeah, okay. Have you analyzed, you probably have an idea, what are the main causes of pollution, and are they treatable in a way? So that, because if you offer people some financial retribution for damages they suffered, that it's only backwards looking. You know, it won't make problem any lesser than it already is. And obviously, how many people are in Michoacán?
4 million.
4 million, yeah. It's like Croatia. So we are similar in size.
All right.
We have 4 million population. And so I suppose that quite a lot of people, their lifestyles and perhaps incomes depend in a way on the Lake Cuitzeo. And so it obviously needs a more systematic approach, and you should obviously have a policy or regulation, if you will, what to do in the future to reduce or even better eliminate the pollution. So what's the main cause of pollution? I mean, if it's industry, then why is it allowed to the industry to do that? So that's probably the main question.
Yeah, I know that, and we thought that this is the serious problem, because most of the companies are cause the pollution because with the productive activities, they are send the pollutions to the river or to the lake, and they cause healthy problems. But I want to say that it is insists that it is required to implant vegetation in strategic areas of the lake. This vegetation must be resist the characteristics of the soil, and also it is required that the wastewater treatment plants in 3 strategic areas of the basin to reduce the pollution. If we have the 3 wastewater treatment plants, maybe we can do another things. Also, it is required reforestation strategy and some areas, some specific areas, and also as said, we need an integrated plan management for the water resources. So this is the main idea, the backup that we are trying to do in this area.
Okay, so is there another question from the audience?
Yeah.
Okay, if not, then I have more, obviously. So I didn't catch the fact those financial values that you mentioned.
Yeah.
They're applied on what period?
Okay.
So you are getting, I don't know, 70 euros per, I don't know, per year, per month, per day, per what?
Yeah, this value could be per 4 months, which is the duration of the dust storms. So for 4 months, could be the value expenses.
Yeah, so as I understood, the lake runs out of water. There's no water, so you have these, I don't know, like desert storms or whatever, sandstorms. So
Yeah.
and it produces a lot of harm to the people. But then so why is it happening? And why didn't it? Why wasn't it happening before? So what was the who made the damage? You know, what happened?
Yeah, I know that. Well, the damage was caused by the upper part of the basin. So this is so serious because the region, the study region, didn't cause the pollution, but they have to suffer the externalities. So it is a social conflict because they didn't do the pollution, and if we have to do something, we have to understand that what is happening in all basin to understand the situation in the lake.
Yeah. Okay. So do we have any more questions from the audience? Okay, no. So do you have a final message? How do you see the long-term planning in Michoacán or perhaps in Mexico? Because it's a wider problem, I suppose, than just local one. Are there any long-term strategies to tackle this particular issue or similar issues that you probably have all around the country?
Yeah, up to now we have another similar problems in other lakes, like Pátzcuaro, like Sirawen, and the desiccation process is the same as the Cuitzeo Lake. So with the advance of Lake Cuitzeo deterioration and the desiccation, illegal occupation of the federal shoreline is increasing as economic activity is also allowed, and moreover this nation is losing an extensive lake which could be of fundamental importance to supply water to those neighborhood states which represent are under hydrological stress to continue with agriculture, fishing, and industrial activities. So, I mean, this lake is very important for all the country, and we have to do something to preserve.
Yeah, and okay, thank you. And about the future research, I mean, I see you are active in this kind of area, in this kind of topics. So what about trying to investigate the willingness to pay by, for example, Mexican people to pay for the external costs of whatever. There were some in Europe, for example, or in America. You can find research results about willingness to pay for the externality costs, for the cost of implementation of renewable energy sources instead of the dirty ones. And it turned out that people are in developed countries like England, like very developed countries compared to Croatia or to Mexico, are not really willing to pay much for the costs that are associated with the switch to the green energy production, which is, I'd say, a big of a problem.
Yeah.
Because there is obviously not a political will on a mass scale that would be in a way consistent with the official policies of states, of international organizations, and so on. So, and I think this is a good research question, because there are not too many results published already about the actual willingness to pay for such costs by people living in certain areas.
Yeah, I know that, and I think the willingness to pay is another line of research, and as in the presentation, I said that that is another part of this research. So we have and the context that how many money the population could be expend to try to do something for the lake. So, but I agree with you. I think willingness to pay could be more practical to do something for the lake. Also, in this case, the bracket, we thought that it is necessary that the Secretary of the Environmental and Natural Resources informs to the public with documental evidence about the public policies of change of land use on the shoreline and the western sheet of the Lake Cuitzeo. These to regulate illegal invading behavior of the federal zone, because if we don't do that, maybe the situation could be worse.
Yeah. Yes, I have a question coming in to the chat board from a member of the audience, Krešimir Kovačević. He asks you, what would it take to fix the problem? Would moving the citizens be easier? Financial compensation seems like a band-aid solution that could add up in the future, which I kind of understand the question. It is not very easy to move a large number of people because you have to have a space or houses and everything to move them. Yeah. But then this is a totally legitimate question. This financial retribution is pretty kind of, temporary measure that can only pay a part of just a part of the decreased level of quality of life, if you will.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, this money that will be producing value resources is not the answer for the main problem, but this is an opportunity to suggest some appropriately compensation for these externalities. But we thought that we need an integrated management plan, as we said before that. And this plan we needed for the water resources and for the good management and administration. So the value is only one part of the strategy. But if we have a plan, we can do more things than only this contribution.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Do we have another question from the audience?
Yeah.
Nobody raises their hand. So, Rafael, thank you again. I understand that you have another obligation in like 5 or 10 minutes. So I will let you go, and thank you for this interesting presentation and for the answers you provided to our guests here. And I hope we stay in touch, and I'm getting some ideas of what we could perhaps work on in the future. So thank you once more. I will now stop the recording, but don't escape just because of that.
Okay.